Greetings, friends. Welcome back to another episode of Dreamscapes. Today we have our friend Debbie Cruz, who is a dream pollinator. And what that means is that she helps you ignite the fuse within you to find your true self and make your own dreams come true, which is a specialty of mine, finding out all about dreams. So we're going to get right back to her in 2 seconds. Please, for my sake, if you would, like, share, subscribe, tell your friends. Always need more volunteer dreamers. 13 currently available works of historical dream literature. You can get a t-shirt, coffee mug, direct donations, always accepted. I always feel like I'm forgetting something, but that's enough about me. Back to our friend Debbie. Thank you for coming. I appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you so much, Benjamin. I'm so excited to be here.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
I hope I repeated that backwards. I couldn't read my own Freudian slip backwards. Couldn't read my own handwriting here. It was ignite the fuse or fire. Ignite the fire. That's what it was. My own handwriting. But what is a dream pollinator? How do you...
Sometimes our fuse has gone out and we need to keep reigniting it.
Right. So you got to bring the fire too. Good deal. Yes. Well, how do you describe being a dream pollinator? What does that mean?
Well, first of all, I became a dream pollinator because I always felt like I wasn't living my true self. I wasn't being who I wanted to be in my job, in my relationships, in everything I was doing. And in that, I did a really deep dive into myself and learning that my name in Hebrew is Devorah, and it is the bee seeker. So I was very connected to bees, and I kind of a little realized I did have a weird connection to bees. And looking deeper into what that is the bees just want to be nourishing, and they want everything around them to be beautiful and successful. And they do defy gravity. They do definitely have do impossibles. I mean, for the bee to actually fly is just unbelievable and impossible.
By the laws of aerodynamics, it shouldn't be possible. Yeah.
Yeah. So they do things that other people see as impossible, but for them, it's like, this is my duty. I'm going to keep everybody around me being beautiful and wonderful and be successful. And I realized in following my journey of not being my true self, I found the things that I really loved and enjoyed. I was in operations majority of my career. And what I felt the most successful at was finding employees that kind of were not in the right place. And I like to call it rehab. So, people that were making mistakes and people that are like, I just hate this job, and treating it that way. And a lot of times they're in that place where it's like, we got to let this guy go. And it became very heartbreaking to me, like, let people go. And I found an avenue of how to rehab people. So I built some leadership teams, and I was like, this is the deal. There's 25 of you. You have 1 year. I'm going to give you all the skills and all the tools and put you in the right places so you become the best version of yourself. We're going to find a lot out. We're going to find out what you're really good at, what you really like, what skills you need to sharpen up. Whatever it is, in a year, I want you to be at where you think your next level is, where you want on your path. And in 25 people in less than a year all went into their next level job. And then we did another 25 and another 25. And then I moved to another company and I did a similar program. And just helping people find their dream career and their dream path was so exciting. And I went and did all the math of what I could find. And I found out in a 7-year span, I had promoted over 550 people.
Wow.
So yeah, I was like, that is so exciting to me. And learning about myself, I realized like everybody has dreams, and how many people are told that their dreams are just something to be like, oh, I really want to do that, but that's never going to happen. How many times do we just put it on the shelf and stare at it and cry about it? Yeah. Why don't we make it like, life is so short. If we didn't learn anything in the past few years, life is so short. Life can dramatically change in a heartbeat. And, we don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. So if you could be bad at your job, like how great would it be to give it a shot to do the job you always wanted, because you're probably going to win at that.
Yeah.
So give it a chance, give everything a chance. And I teach people how to really find who they are inside, become the best version of themselves, put a strong plan together, and find themselves in their dream. most of it usually becomes a career. But there's people that have relationship dreams, people that have travel dreams, and those are stronger. And when you're taking care of all the pieces that you need to get in these places, the number one top 5, are finances. I need more education. I need to be physically fit. I need to eat better. I need to be emotionally better. I need spirituality. So when you're really getting in deep to the core and you're touching all of these things, you really are learning so much about yourself, and you're able to really identify who you are and what really makes you happy. And, once you can write down 100 things that make you really, really happy and what you want to do in your life, you really can define it. And then you find these dreams and you're like, I'm going to make this happen. This dream is going to take 5 years. This dream is going to take 3 years. This dream is going to take a year. This dream can take 2 weeks. And you really plan it out, and you dive into these small little goals that get you there. And once you start on that path and you get those first little ones out of the way, you just feel so good. And the big ones just get achieved so much faster. It's a beautiful process.
It is definitely. So, and I'm a terrible host. I always get lost in the moment and forget what I'm doing. I'm amazed I can do my own housekeeping half the time. People can find you at DebbieCruz.com, and that's DebbykRUZ. And you don't have to worry about that. I'll put it in the description below, but also at Debbie Cruz on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. And so while you were describing all that, and this happens to me a lot too. So I'll get contacted by people and they're like, I love to talk about dreams. Let's do it. And then when we get into our conversation, they're like, well, I'm talking about goals, aspirations. And I'm like, I'm talking about literal nocturnal visions, but there's a great blending of the two. There's a reason we use the same word to describe those things, because very often our dreams in our head at night are about aspirations, are about what do we want our life to be like? What do we want our relationships to involve? What would be our ideal jobs? And there's a very big crossover between what you might hope to accomplish someday and what might appear to you in your mind. So there's a tagline I use that's follow your dreams, they know the way. And that might be your dreams are giving you a path to a goal, or they're showing you something inside yourself that you can understand that'll make your life better. So there's that wonderful crossover between what you and I both do.
Yeah, I love it. And it's so true because, I believe you're exactly what you said. They are a pathway. And, they're really led by what is truly in your heart, because it's like your insides are trying to talk to you when you're in a place where we're in charge right now. You need to listen up. But you learn, you see things in your dreams and you're like, I don't understand that. That doesn't make sense. Because in your everyday life, it may not be something you can identify with, and it'll just keep showing up. And I always tell the story of when I was little, I used to have dreams that I was a doctor, and that's all I could see. And it didn't make any sense to me at all. I can't stand the sight of blood. Like I pass out like ever at any sight of blood.
Yeah, me too. No.
I'm like, I don't even know why. Nobody around me was a doctor. So I didn't have like an influential person, but I saw myself in a white coat and like working with people and healing people. So healthcare found me years ago. And I'm like, you must be kidding me, because I'm totally wrong for this. And I learned that, this is wrong. This is not where I need to be. But what I didn't see and what I didn't understand was I saw a doctor as healing. And now that I'm helping people and I'm coaching them how to find their dreams, I'm healing them inside by helping them find what's in their heart and be their true version of themselves. But I only saw myself in the white jacket and I couldn't understand it.
Yeah.
So I totally think like I can't wait for you to just dive in and interpret.
For sure. Well, that's
crazy dream.
That's just a great example of kind of where I come from on the dream interpretation side of things, which is, so you look at the iconography or hierarchy of a dream. What are the symbols involved? And I definitely shy away from one size fits all dream book interpretations. Yes, they can have some relevant common cultural understandings of things, but it's always going to mean something different. So one person, a dream book might say, dreaming of a doctor, you will have a medical career. You will be a physician specifically. In this case, not so much, but, and this also goes to our understanding of what it is that certain icons represent. Doctors, healing. So healing covers many things. And then that abstractly got to my mind that in Japan, they call doctors sensei, but sensei is also the martial arts instructor. So it's more broadly teacher, and specifically in the medical profession, it's a teacher of how to be healthy. It is kind of their conception of it. So, and health can cover mental, physical, all kinds of financial health, all kinds of things. So you're looking at this icon of healing in your dream saying, this is something I want to express or embody in my life. So that's where my interpretations come from, is getting into someone's personal understanding of what they see and what it means to them, and then relating that to the story of the dream, so to speak. So, you know, that understanding you came to is probably exactly what I would have helped you discover if you hadn't come to it on your own.
That's awesome. Yeah. But the whole teaching part, I didn't really think of that. It is teaching. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not doing the work for you. You are doing the work. I'm just giving you the tools.
Little attention hog here. I'm watching that keyboard like a hawk and the numbers here. You are not going to eat another episode, my boy. I love you. He's chasing flies. Some flies got in here. So he's going to, hopefully he doesn't hit my camera. Okay. Just be cute. Look at that. Be cute right there. He's barely on camera. He's a camera hog. I call it value added content. Anyone who's watched every episode in the last month is probably sick of hearing me use those words.
No.
Yeah. So what you were describing to what you provide for people, you said you were in operations, which is like logistics. Is that kind of a similar type of thing?
Yeah. I mean, operations, basically the back end of tying everything together, keeping the lights on, keeping clients in, getting people paid, making sure everybody's doing what they're supposed to. And, just the glue of everything.
Yeah. That's why logistics came to mind. And I think of those words as synonymous. I wanted to clarify with you, because a lot of people have, let's say a goal in mind, or they need help defining the goal. But then the most important part is, what are the steps? How do I get from where I'm at to where I'm going? I love the analogy of a map. You can find, the city you're looking to get to, where you're starting, and now you've got a destination. You got to pick roads. You got to look at traffic and time of day. You got to look at, do I have enough gas to get there? Am I going to arrive at a specific time? That's all the logistical parts, the concrete steps to success, to getting to that goal. And I would say that's where a lot of people fail in their dreams. And what I mean by that is they don't accomplish them in a failure kind of way, but they lack sometimes the ability to conceptualize that process independently, and just having someone to bounce ideas off of, or to help you say, I've driven that road before. Let me tell you where the traffic is. Let me tell you how much gas you're going to need to get there. Just having that practical help has got to be, well, you said you've helped 500 people probably pretty much by that process, huh?
Yeah. I mean, and I think the key right at the beginning is to really identify dream crushing. And, I go through a whole beginning session of dream crushing 101, where, somebody told you no, somebody told you couldn't do it. And then it repeats in your head. And then you see how you operate your life of, I can't do that because so-and-so said it to me. And you might have forgotten already that person said it to you, but you already told yourself.
Yeah.
So there's a dream cycle, and, we all come to a path in our life where you're like, oh, it's this time of year again, or, oh, I could see how this is a decision-making process and I have to make a choice. So are you going to loop through the circle again, or are you going to go left, or you're going to go right?
Yeah.
And identifying that dream crushing, because that happens right away. I always tell people, I like to do a first session, like as a group, because it's very kind of like laying down what's going to happen and gets people excited. And it's better to be around people to share the excitement. And then everything else is one-on-one, because you don't want to, your dreams belong to you. They don't belong to someone else. You don't compare yourself to someone else, and you just don't, because that's part of the dream crushing as well. But, you know, it's, once you can identify the people that are in your life that just crush you down, understand why. It's usually because it's something that you're going to take away from them. You know, think of kids going to college, right? Mom, I'm going to go to college. I'm going to go to university all the way on the other side of the country. No, you can't do that. No. You know, because the mother is afraid, like, oh my God, my baby's going to leave me so far away. Yeah, I think the majority of people and even the kids that go like a half an hour away, I mean, they still have the same reaction, right? So that away, that's a dream crushing. So, you know that there's certain conversations with certain people that it's going to be sensitive, and they're not going to like it. So when people walk out of a dream crushing session, I let them know, be like, you have all these dreams that you wrote down. You're excited about it. Who's the first person that's going to crush you when you go home?
Yeah. Who's going to tell you can't do it? It's not practical. And sometimes there may be dream crushers that are very well-meaning. They want what's best for you, and they think you can't do it, or it's not going to succeed for whatever reason. They're being honest, and it's maybe even motivated for your own good in their opinion, genuinely, but they can't live your life for you. They can't tell you what you should try. Definitely, if you never reached for anything, you're not going to grab anything. You gotta. That's why. What's the worst thing can happen if you ask? Someone could say no. What's the worst thing can happen if you never ask? You never know. You don't even give someone the opportunity to say no. So it's kind of that situation where you got to give it a try to see what happens sometimes, and having practical help.
Oh, I'm sorry. One of my favorite quotes that I use at the beginning of my sessions is, "You miss 100 shots you didn't take."
That's what I'm getting at. Yeah. I don't think I'm on my game today with my metaphors.
Yeah. Absolutely. I do believe that there are some dream crushers that are good. If you're like, I'm going to go bungee jumping and, with some guy I never met and I don't even know what his equipment looks like. I've never gone bungee jumping before. Yeah, maybe not. No, that's a good person to dream crush. But, I think that there are people that have your best interest at there, and you need to identify them as well, of why they're dream crushing you. And a lot of times it is for your best interest, but there are those automatic no's people, like everything is a no. And it is a lot of times because it's their insecurity and their fear, and they're afraid. Like, if you do this leaves me here.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not ready,
It's so definitely a self-serving dream crushing where they're trying to hold you back, and they may not even be aware of it. That's a typical thing too, to say this person says they're looking out for my best interests, and I can see they have an argument about X, Y, or Z, but really it's coming from a place where, and it can happen with partners and relationships too, where, what is some of the codependent, addiction relation, someone says, I want to get clean. The other person's like, I can't get clean. I don't think I'm capable of that. So I'm going to tell them they're not capable so they don't leave me. There's a whole lot of that type of stuff going on at all different levels. It's just one typical example people might understand.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a perfect example. So, I try to just not, even if it sounds ridiculous, I try to just not dream crush them. And, there's the famous story of, a middle-aged man that wants to be a major league ball player, but, never played the game, was never on a team. And it's like, no.
And he's never been very athletic.
Everybody's like, no. Yeah. And it's like, well, wait, the answer is not no. Let's dig into the reasons why. Why is it that you want this? Is it because you want acknowledgement? Like, you go to bat, you get acknowledgement, you make a home run. How exciting. It's a quick hit, right? So do you like the quick wins? Do you like the season? Do you like just the crowds? Do you like working on a team? That's all has to be strategic and work together. So digging in deep and finding out what it looks like and means to you, there's a whole new avenue of things that can open up,
for sure.
And find what it really is, and then really dig in deep and get you to become that major league ball player. Because what you see in your head is the ball player. That's what you had your dream about, but it could be something completely different.
And again, like you with the doctor, it could represent an icon you've built up in your mind to represent a kind of experience, a kind of feeling you want to embody. But it may not actually be playing baseball that is really what you want, it's the only way to satisfy that urge or to achieve that success. And as you were talking about all that and pulling disparate elements together, it brought me back to the idea of you being a dream pollinator and the analogy to bees. They, in the process of gathering pollen to come back and make honey, which that's a whole amazing thing. I put honey in my coffee. You can pack. This is not medical advice, YouTube. You can pack some wounds with honey and it's sterile and it helps them heal. Tunneling bed sores. Allegedly, I have heard, this is not medical advice, cured with honey, medical grade honey. And it's amazing. Anyway, long story short, they've got to hit a lot of flowers to bring all that back together to make the honey. And at the same time, they're leaving a little pollen behind everywhere they go. It's this perfect symbiosis of all these things coming together to accomplish something important or valuable at the very least. So yeah, my thoughts on your process and what you offer. Yeah.
No, I love it. Yes. Thank you. And it's exactly what it is. And it's contagious. So, you are planting all the seeds and pollinating. When you're following your dreams, people around you are like, you made that happen. How did you do that? I want to do that. Like, you make things possible. I never thought I could be an author. And then one of my friends that I grew up with, she became an author. And all of a sudden, she's became a famous author. And I'm like, she did an autobiography of her life. And I'm like, I sat next to you in 7th grade. Like,
yeah,
I was part of that.
That's amazing.
I could write, it wasn't possible to me until I saw my friend do it, so yeah. It's the contagious energy. If we keep good and positive energy, we're going to achieve wonderful things. And the people around us want to be a part of it and they want it for themselves. So yes, it's all about the pollination. I give everybody a pack of seeds when they leave me. I'm like, go plant it and watch it grow, because it's going to happen. When you plant something, it's going to grow.
For sure.
And look at all the fruit you get from it and look at how all of it that it attracts.
And I'm glad you mentioned your book, because I completely forgot you had a novel. You said it's Soul Meets Body. Yes. I don't know if you wanted to say a little bit about that. What is it about? Yeah.
Well, I will tell you, it is part of my journey. It is a fiction novel, but I was in I thought my dream was to make my way up the corporate ladder, so I was told, oh yeah, no, the next level is better. The next level is going to be where the dream is. The next level. I got all the way up to a C level and I'm like, this sucks.
I'm not feeling it. Yeah.
It's not what I want. It's not where I need to be. And I just listened to my heart that just said to me one day, leave your job and just start writing and I'll take care of the rest. And I thank you, because I did that. I wrote 3 books in 9 months. Soul Meets Body is my last book. I was just sort of writing, and, at the time I sort of had this vision of them. I still have the vision of them becoming movies. And I kind of was looking at them as like crazy, wild stories, but I didn't realize it was really telling stories about following your heart. And it's about your intuition and following your heart, and everything's going to work out, and just trust your process. Just trust that you're going on the right path. So they are wild, crazy stories. And you're like, how did you get yourself into that? Like, how did that? And then, you're just following your heart, gets you out of it, gets you into these beautiful destinations, meeting people for a reason. And, it's just a good, I always think like you need something fun to teach you something,
yeah. If it can't hold your attention, it's not, the message isn't going to get in there, however good it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Like school was always boring me because it was like sitting there and like listening, like, yeah. I'm like, but if you
the Charlie Brown,
yeah, and once you made it, once learning became fun, or once it was something that I could relax and enjoy, like I believe in teaching people through music, through art, through entertainment. So to me, writing a book, it is just being able to express myself, but also to really help people. And I have so many people come to me and are like, your book just inspires me and I feel so good. And I don't feel alone in a crazy story. You know, you
Yeah.
feel alone in so many situations. You're like, I don't know how to get through it. And just watching these characters that you grow to love get themselves tangled in something and you're like fighting for them and it comes through and you're like, that makes it feel free for me, like that I can come through.
That's a wonderful catharsis, I think they call it. Yeah, for sure. No, that's great too. And there's other fascinating aspects of that too. It's like sometimes you pick a goal and you struggle to achieve it and you never get there. But on the way, you find important things about yourself. You find important things in the process of the journey. And you might even get halfway to where you're going and go, that isn't what I wanted at all, but I'm already moving and I can just redirect my intensity, my energy, my drive into this other new thing that I've found that it's going to be even more satisfying. And it's just putting your foot on that road, just getting that gumption to kind of start whatever you're doing. So that's why I like to, in general, make sure people know is that there's nothing wrong with failing to meet a goal. You often learn something in the process, or you find a better goal in the process, or something about the process you carry on to another process and you're like, now I can do this other thing better because I had to start somewhere and learn. When I was doing my own historical dream literature, so I'm the editor of works from going back to the 1500s, primarily 16, 17, 18, 1900s, growing collection. These are all works by other people, but they're leading. It's all part of my process of eventually writing my own original work. So I'm editing these current works, getting the education in dreams that have already been discussed and theorized by all these other great thinkers. And then I'll be ready to do something. So that's been part of my process. And so with my first book, I didn't know what I was doing. I had to figure everything out from scratch, but it was like, I'm going to get this book published and we'll see what happens. And since then, everything I learned has made it easier and easier to do the next one. And it's all leading up, hopefully someday, to my own original work, but that's in the future at some point.
It'll be there. So, I feel it.
I'm not going to stop. I just finished one book. I started the next, just published book 13. Book 14 is done, recording the audiobook, and book 15 is in process currently. I always like to have multiple at the same time, so I can just keep pushing, keep formatting and spell checking and updating 18th, 17th century language to modern English. That's a big one. Once upon a time, that was it. What book was it that had, I think it was Tyrion's Dreams and Visions, book 7, something like that. Long story, talking about myself too much, but one entire page is a single page long paragraph that is one sentence. Or was originally. I think I broke it up a little bit. One of the books I left it the way it was because I just wanted to see, I wanted people to see this is how they used to write. And to draw a comparison to some of the other works I've edited where I take one continuous paragraph long, page long sentence and I break it up a little bit because you don't need to do that. It's hard to read. So yeah, that's the nature. That's the nature of my work. Sorry. I could geek out on editing of all things, but
I could use some editing help, so I'll pick your brain on that later.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I've actually would talk to some people about helping. A second set of eyes doesn't hurt sometimes. You miss a spelling error because you've seen that word 60 times and your brain always reverses the 2 letters. Spell check didn't catch it because it's an unusual word. You get some help. And that's great that's what you do, is help people figure out the process to get where they're going. I think that's the biggest, not selling point for you, but the biggest benefit that you can have, or someone like you, is helping people get those concrete details nailed down, steps. Here's what you do next. Here's what you do next. Got to have a plan to get where you're going. And it's incredibly beneficial to have someone to talk to and to just say, bounce ideas off of and get some realistic critique and encouragement at the same time from someone who is not invested in dream killing, because they don't know you. They want you to succeed. It's your dreams, not mine, and I got nothing but the hope you succeed so that I succeed, so that my help was of benefit. That was the other thing I was going to say, is that that's a lot of resonance with what you do and what I do. Is like, I find listening to people's dreams and helping them understand them unbelievably intriguing and satisfying to me. And people get answers that they're looking for. And it's like this perfect symbiosis of I'm entertained by the process. I find it fascinating. And someone is going, wow, I didn't know that about myself. Now that makes sense. And I get to feel like twice as good every time, and mutual benefit. That's the way to go.
Yeah, no, I love it. This is
sorry, I'm talking myself into a froggy throat. Well, you do have a little bit of a time limit today, so I don't want to cheat you on the dream experience. Speaking of which, so if you feel like we've given a good overview of what you do, if you didn't have any additional comments, we'll jump into the dream interpretation thing.
I have a few. I have a decent amount of time, so
okay.
Yeah,
good deal. Well, so my process is first I just shut up and listen. Our guest tells me the dream, beginning to end, chronologically, whatever they can remember. And then we try and make sense of it together. So I'm ready when you are. All
right. So recently I've been having a dream where I'm on a highway, like not a major highway, like a 2-lane highway. And one side is a beach, and the other side is could be like residential or stores. And I'm sort of underneath an underpass, but I'm walking, and I see myself going towards the beach side, and there's like a flea market going on, and kind of get lost in there. Lots of people, talking to lots of people, all walks of life. Kind of a lot of people I'm noticing are kind of dressed like really like thousands of years ago, like sacks, like burlap sacks, and just very unidentified clothing. Not a lot of traffic on the highway. I was able to cross it a few times. I found myself going back there a bunch of times. I also, in the middle of one of those dreams, somebody cut the side of my ear. And then at one point, I was with a baby, and I was talking with the baby, and all of a sudden I get like sidetracked, and I'm somewhere else. I'm in my house, and someone is frantically trying to get in the door, and it's like the door's locked, and I'm like, who is it? Who are you? And it was a girl, I would say like maybe high schoolish age. I didn't open the door. I just asked, who is it? And she said, it's Fidelity. I'm supposed to be here. I was told to be here, and the door would be open. And then I woke up. Okay. There's a lot that I don't remember, but there was a lot of walking, and a lot of like walking through crowds. Not really a concert, but not a parade. Just like a very very populated area. Maybe it was like a park of sorts. Okay. So I know when we talked briefly before, you said there was kind of a lot of less memorable material, then a rather intense portion, and then maybe some other stuff after that. Is what you told me just kind of in that intense portion, not the other stuff? Yeah, my ear getting cut. Like it was like, you're in a dream, you're just sort of like, you realize you're dreaming, but there's nothing really going on. It's like boring TV, like it's on in the background, but I'm not really paying attention. And then all of a sudden it's like, you're like turned around and you're somewhere else. Yeah. And then my ear gets cut off. That was intense, but it didn't hurt. And there wasn't really blood. And the knocking of the door, that like very like shook me a lot. And then I woke up. Yeah. So those were the two deep intensities. The other stuff was sort of just like, I can't really identify or figure it out. There was conversation. I don't know what the conversation was. I don't know who the people were, what that was all about. So yeah. Well, we could try to focus it down a little bit too. Well, why don't we just start at the beginning and see where it takes us? So the first thing you remember is being on this 2-lane highway, walking next to it, and you're
kind of appear in the dream at the very beginning under the underpass. Is kind of the first awareness you have or recollection you have. Okay.
I think I got out of a car. Like I think I was in a car with somebody, and I think I got out. And now that I'm talking about it, I remember that. I remember seeing this.
I couldn't tell you how many times I've heard those exact words. Now that I'm thinking about it, now that I'm telling you the story, extra details. That's the whole purpose of my deep dive. The second time through is to get that extra stuff. Anything memorable about the car?
I want to say that it was blue. When you asked me, like blue came right to mind, and I could kind of visualize being in a blue, more of a smaller car. Like
no associations.
Corolla or something.
No associations with who might have been dropping you off, or having seen that type of car in the past, or when you think of that car, anything comes to mind other than blue? Blue's interesting.
Blue.
You got nothing. It's okay. But I just
the only thing I could think of is I saw a blue car like a few days ago, and I was like, God, that's an obnoxious blue. Like it's a blue that I'm like, oh, like a color I don't like. Toyota, a small car. When I had a rental for a little bit because my car was in the shop, and that was a Toyota Corolla, but that was white. The person, I don't know, but I do now remember my friend Gina, that I haven't seen in like 20 something years, but we're friends on, social media. And somehow I feel like it was Brooklyn, because I feel like I can it's not that highway that I can't think of the name of the highway at this time that takes you on the outskirts of it's the Cross Island, but it turns into I can't think of what it is. But if you go down that highway, it's a 2-lane highway, and then on one side is Coney Island, and the other side is, residential Brooklyn, and it leads you all the way to the Verrazano Bridge. And it doesn't. It reminds me of that, but it doesn't look like that.
But it was not that specific area.
No. Okay. And I know my friend Gina lives in that area. And I don't, so she just was sort of like, it was like, hey, what's up? Kind of a thing.
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting start. Oh, we got all that so I got out of a car under an underpass. And it's bringing back all these memories, this blue, kind of an obnoxious color, and you are leaving the car. You weren't getting into the car to go on a journey. It's near maybe where an old friend used to live. So there's some association with your relationship with that person, maybe. Some feeling you had about them is crossed your mind as you're now seeing this scene I remember this kind of a highway, but instead of where Coney Island would be, there's this flea market, a bazaar, and it's populated with all these people from another time. We're wearing clothes, way archaic, sackcloth, old clothes. Not even, you didn't describe them as, say, medieval, royalty clothes. I mean, you see in a lot of the historical books, you look what the nobles are wearing, but the peasants were wearing a tunic with a belt if they were lucky. And they're one piece of clothes that they took off and washed while they went swimming and bathed at the same time. So that was the lifestyle back then. Very interesting that Coney Island would instead, in this dream place, be replaced by more of a flea market type of scene. But we haven't actually gotten there yet. So it's not a busy freeway, multi-lane. It's more of a highway. So it's a smaller roads can take on different meanings too. In terms of you're walking through the forest and there's no path. You're lost. There's a dirt trail. That's one kind of road. There's a bike trail through the woods. There's a residential street leading up to driveways and whatnot. There's freeways and there's highways. So there's something in the smaller size maybe of this avenue, manageable traffic as you're describing it there as well. So if you're if I get it in my head, like I'm looking out of your eyes, are you looking down the road and the residentials are on your left and the beach is on your right, or is it vice versa?
Vice.
So
the beach is on the left, yes,
beach is on
and
the
on
left,
the right.
residential. Okay.
Yes, you are right. Correct.
beach left, buildings. We'll say stay away from the keyboard. Buildings on the right. Any sense of day night sunlight?
It was, I would say, it was like not a sunny. It was daytime, probably later in the afternoon, but it was hazy. It could look like a fall afternoon, like maybe late October, but it didn't feel like fall. It felt more like, or now, like around spring, but it wasn't cold at all.
Gotcha.
It was warm. Yeah, it was warm.
Yeah, and that's not uncommon in dreams. Sometimes the light source is very vivid and casting shadows, and like it was an intense sun and blue sky. And very often it's, I could tell it was daylight, but I couldn't tell where the sun was or what time of day it was. That's a different kind of experience where it kind of de-emphasizes, well, you can see. That's all you need to know. Don't worry about it. So sometimes your brain's like this unnecessary detail that just leaves it out. But interesting that you did have kind of an association. It felt like it could have been a fall day, but it wasn't cold. And it felt like it might have been in the afternoon even. Sometimes those metaphors our brains can jump to sometimes with the idea of a day-night cycle being also a life-death cycle. The sunset of one's older years. So if you're in the morning in a particular place, it might be just beginning a new process, or if you're at the end of the day, it can often relate to ideas of having passed midlife. I don't know if I start saying things that are like, that's way off, that doesn't resonate, or if you're like, yeah, that's been on my mind lately. Feel free to chime in. I'm just throwing these ideas. These aren't hard pronouncements, so to speak. But this is where my brain starts going with these processes of like, okay, interesting time of day connected to possibly a place from your past, or at least reminding you of an old friend, a neighborhood you've been in before, but distinctly different. It's like, remember, it's like this, but not quite. So we're getting an idea of where we're starting, at the very least. And you get out of the car and you start walking on the beach side of the road. And do you remember your process of entering the kind of bizarre area? I mean, are there, I say bizarre, flea market, are there tents? Does it look a particular style? What did you see?
So I see there's like a building, like somehow I'm walking out of the building. So the building is parallel to the overpass, and it's just like it's like a big garage almost. And I find myself walking out there, and there's lots of tables. I see a tent like far back. Kind of like almost like a circus tent, but different colors. And there's just like lots of tables set up like in rows, and just people walking around, casually. I don't think there was music.
Do you remember any specific path you took and what you saw? Were there certain types of things being sold, or
I feel like I can't really identify with what was being sold. I can't. I don't really know that. I know there was tables with stuff. I don't really see anybody selling anything. I just see some stuff. Like it was all set up this way, but I'm walking kind of through it.
okay?
So like set up like horizontal lines, and I'm walking vertically through it. And I was on the outskirts, and then I kind of weaved my way into it.
So you kind of were walking around the outside, but then decided to cut through. Any thoughts in your mind at that time, or feelings of where you were trying to get to, or what was your purpose for being there?
I was looking for something. I think I was looking for somebody, Um, but I don't know who. I was looking for something. So it feels like a person, but I can't identify who I would be looking for.
Fair enough. And that might be relevant. I mean, I think it's definitely relevant, but if you were looking for a specific person, it would mean something. This is definitely the concept of seeking a person for some reason. You need to find them. There's this urge to find a person. And it would mean something different if you were there with strong recollection of what was on the tables. Those objects might say something. They might not. The idea that you didn't see the objects strongly, you just knew that you were in a place where things are being sold. And it's not, you weren't in a store, supermarket. You weren't in a, big box store. This is where people bring their own things to put them on display or sell them, to offer them up for sale. It's a different kind of an experience. And you're going to a place where people are offering things they have personally, looking for someone, not looking for a thing necessarily, but for someone. You just let some of these random rantings of mine float and you don't feel obligated to say yeah or wow or anything. Just I do a lot of thinking out loud because that's how I process.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't know what I'm trying to say until I say it. I go, that was it.
Yeah. I think I'm trying to figure it out at the same time.
Yeah.
I'm trying to dig my brain of more if there's details. I did see people with knapsacks.
Sure.
So I'm sort of a little thinking feeling like maybe there was a concert or something, and this is after the concert, or in between,
Interesting. We can just kind of flag that and maybe come back around to it. But this is where you were seeing all the people had this archaic style of clothing. They're very dressed down.
Typical kind of times, where I don't know what that comes to me. But it's now. It's as if all those people were here.
Yeah, and it didn't strike you as odd at the time, or it did. These people are out of place. Their clothing's out of place.
No.
It all seemed kind of.
I was I understood it. It was I knew what was going on, and I knew where I was, and I was comfortable.
Yeah.
And I was there, but I'm looking for something. And I've had a lot of dreams where I'm looking for something, and I don't really know what what it is.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. No, yeah, and that can mean a lot of different things. There, that can be very iconic of our problem-solving process. It's if we don't have an answer to a puzzle, it can very easily be represented by, I'm looking and I can't find, because I very literally don't have an answer to this thing. I haven't found that missing piece to make it make sense. And sometimes we just process our process. Yeah, I'm stuck on this part. Let me kind of think about how that feels and what it's like to be stuck in a process and looking for something I can't find. I don't know, I'm froggy today. Definitely. Too much phlegm. So, but it is interesting that you had this almost feeling of man, it's biblical times tunics on these people, but it didn't feel unnatural, out of place. Almost your mind was of course these are the people you would find here, because that's the kind of people that belong in the place you're looking, where you think you're likely to find what you're looking for. There's definitely something to that. I don't know what it is. Not yet, but you did mention talking to people. So were you asking them for directions or asking them? Yeah.
Yeah. I think it was more asking for where things were. Where can I find this? But I don't remember the exact questions, but they were questions. Yes.
Okay. So it wasn't just casual conversation. Hi, how you doing? Who are you? And well, nice to meet you. It was more of purposeful interactions towards finding the person or thing, whatever it was you were looking for. Did you find them useful, helpful? How did they respond to being questioned? Pleasant,
Yeah,
standoffish?
they would answer, point, kind of send me wherever, and I would go.
So you did kind of receive some directions. Where did they what direction did they point you in? Towards the beach, back towards the highway? You said you came and went across the highway a couple of times during some later
I did at
portion.
some point, yeah, cross. There was like no traffic, and I crossed over because I think I was like, oh, I gotta go. I gotta be somewhere. And then I walked across, and now that I'm in it, I was in some sort of like a city, and then all of a sudden I'm somewhere else.
Did anything else happen on the beach in the bazaar? Did you ever go to that circus tent, multicolor place looking for things?
I did not. I did not. Yeah.
And the cutting of the ear happened at a different portion. That's later after
Yeah,
you've gone to the
and
city.
that was just sort of like totally, where did this happen? And I'm like, I like kind of sat up and I'm like, wait, did you just cut my ear? Like I was just sort of holding it like, that's my ear. You just cut my ear.
Wow. But that happened when you returned to the beach later, or
No, it was like all of a sudden I'm in this dream and it's like, you're somewhere else. And it was like totally.
okay. But there was, if we're going chronologically, you're on the beach, you're roaming among the tables, you're talking to the people, they're giving you directions. And at some point, was it their directions that pointed you across the road, or that gave you this impression that you needed to be somewhere right away?
It kept me just weaving within this crowd.
Okay.
On that portion.
And then there was the experience of a sudden urge to, or the need to be somewhere, the expectation you were supposed to be somewhere, and that took you across the road into the city section.
Yeah. And then I go blank. And then the next I remember is my ear being cut.
Do you have any specific visual or any other experiential description of leaving the flea market, crossing the road, entering the city side of things, or that was just blurred? How would you describe that?
Kind of blurred. Blurred.
So
yeah.
Do you remember where you were on the city side when you kind of blanked, when you were suddenly somewhere else?
I was on the other side, the more residential side at that point. Yeah.
Yeah. And at any particular location, you'd climbed up onto a boardwalk, you'd entered an alleyway, any physical description of
it was sort of like like a city street where there's buildings and restaurants and stores. And it feels familiar because I feel like I've had other dreams in that place. Like there's a few places that I don't know that they exist in my world. I don't know that I've ever been there, but they're familiar. And there's lots of places in dreams that I'll have like a couple times a year in the same places.
Okay.
Yeah. I used to have a dream of, I don't want to sidetrack and go into another dream.
You're probably not good for me. I'll get lost. Sorry. I have a very focused, I'm all over the place enough. If I'm just trying to stay on track. When you think of the street being familiar, a sense of familiarity, what made it familiar? Anything stand out?
It felt like New York City.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have any strong associations with that? I mean, what am I trying to ask? I'm trying to leave it loose because I don't want to put ideas in your head, of course. But if I say, a place felt like home, I would describe, well, my home had this quality to it, which made me feel like this other place had the similar quality. So if you're trying to describe what made it feel familiar, it was just the visuals. It looked like a place you'd been before, or something else about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's very much reminded me of being in the city. I worked in Manhattan for close to 20 years, if not more. So it just felt like a part of the city that I haven't seen, but it just felt like the city. It felt
Okay.
like Manhattan.
And then almost immediately upon reaching this place that felt kind of familiar, suddenly scene change, like
Yeah.
hard wipe, as they would call it, the fade to black, new scene.
Yeah.
Okay. Those can be very interesting too. And those are usually, what I found is it's the response to a trigger. You've had the closure on a particular idea. And once that's been encapsulated by the final experience, whatever that was, is a trigger for the next scene to start. It's like one idea in our head linking to the next. So almost immediately in this new scene, you're in a, where are you?
I feel like I was in my bedroom sleeping, and all of a sudden I'm like, wait, someone cut my ear, and I felt a sword and a sharp pain, and then there was no pain and there was no blood, but I'm like picked up a piece of my ear. I'm like, that's my ear.
Were you speaking to someone or to yourself? Like, whoa.
Well, there was somebody there, but I didn't see somebody. And it did feel like a gentleman in like one of those tunic outfits with a sword. But I don't, it was, there was no, I couldn't see the face. And then all of a sudden I hear somebody at the door.
Okay.
There was a baby too at some point, and then all of a sudden
I was going to ask you about that too. Is in terms of,
there was like people in my house, which
I don't remember where I wrote it down, the baby part, but it was definitely after cutting the ear being cut. So I don't want to leave that just yet until I conceptualize a little bit. So you're laying in bed as if you were asleep, and you are awakened by this rather traumatic experience. And there was a sharp feeling, but then there was no pain after that. There was like something that drew your attention to it. And this is a fascinating part too, because I mean, iconically, ears are for listening. And pain gets your attention. So you've got this, and we're going back to these kind of biblical times dressed people, and the guy in a tunic with a sword, and he's getting your attention almost like, hey, listen, I don't know if that's resonating with you at all. It's like that description of it. Does that feel like something important?
It's like, well, is there something I'm not paying attention to and really hearing the real situation? I mean, yeah, of course.
Something in there that struck me. And the idea that this is the opening scene in a new place. You're in your home, you're in your bed, you're asleep. Were you asleep? And if this woke you up, you said, or did I make that up?
That didn't wake me up.
No.
I was still sleeping. I'm still in this dream. When someone was at my door, like right after I spoke with the person on the other side, then I was abrupt. Like then I just sort of like woke myself up. Like I just like what was that? What was that?
Yeah, well, I may have phrased it poorly, but when your ear was cut, did that wake you up in the dream? Were you laying in bed because you were asleep and you were awake in bed in the dream?
Yeah, no.
Okay,
yeah, it was
good deal. And this was in your bedroom. Yeah, there's in the dream, and then there's waking up from the dream, which happened later on. Any sense of threat from the guy that cut the ear, or being afraid of him, or it was just more shock? Like, what did you do?
More shock.
And that's an
like
interesting,
not fear. Yeah.
Yeah. So it wasn't nightmare style, like I'm being attacked. It's more like, did that just happen? What is going on? Very much, very interesting. Very much a different kind of experience from, feeling I'm under attack in my home. That's why I went to the getting your attention thing, because being under threat is something different, a feeling of a threat versus being called to attention, being asked to focus on something. And he didn't cut your big toe. He didn't cut your elbow. It was your ear. It was your something about that. And that's why I went to the hearing thing. And it always depends on if the guest or dreamer says, that the idea of the ear as iconic of listening or hearing something or receiving some information. If they say, no, I don't think that's it, that doesn't mean anything to me, well, then maybe it's something else. But as long as it does, I think we got something to build on.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I mean, I'm not going to tell too much just because it's not that I don't want to tell you. It's just that I don't want it to kind of steer the interpretation. But I mean, I definitely know, I feel that there's a huge life change coming, and I don't know what it is.
Okay. No, I think that's something we would have gotten to anyway. So it's perfectly fine to volunteer. Is like, what's going on around the time period of this dream. So that's going to maybe feed into how we understand why this experience came to you. Another one here. This is Cece. He's a camera hog too. He has never walked on the keyboard, but he will attack my fingers and my pen sometimes. He likes to play. So it was so we have two broad sections of the dream that smash into each other. One leads to the next. You're on the beach looking for someone, and now you're in your home and you have a whole different set of experiences that take place in your home. First, your attention is grabbed, listen up in a way. And then you realize that your house is full of other people. How did you arrive at that? I mean, you went out of your bedroom and saw there's people everywhere, or you heard them talking.
There was definitely a baby, because there's like a carrier with the baby in it. And I remember like being over the baby, talking to the baby, and there was two gentlemen, or I don't see them together. So I don't see them. It could be the same person. I just can't identify the face, but I'm very comfortable around these people. And in real life, I have no idea who they are.
Fair enough. They weren't wearing the face of anyone you know. Yeah.
Right. And I don't know who the baby is. And I don't feel like the baby's mine, and I don't have a baby. So, but I just feel like there's a baby. And then all of a sudden, someone's at my door, like trying to get in and banging and,
so where was
had those?
Oh, he's back. You got to get away from the keyboard, son. Freaking me out. Well, where was the carrier? So if you're in your bedroom, lying in bed when you're awakened, when your attention is grabbed, so to speak, you go into another part of the house where the carrier is, living room, kitchen.
Yeah, in my dining room, like I split my living room, so like one part is the dining room, the other part is the living room. It's big enough, and then the door is right there too. So
that's kind of like what I got going here. That's my bedroom. This is my office. This is my garage. I just kind of live out here. I love it. Yeah, it's a nice. But what is it? 24 by 30 space. That's plenty. I got room for me and cats. You cannot lay on my paperwork. No, this is not paperwork laying time. I know you fits. You cannot sit. Watch out. So the baby's in the dining room, on the dining room table, on the floor, on a chair.
Yeah, and just like no noise, not just like there awake, but just sort of laying there.
And you did say yes on the table, on like the dining room table.
Yeah, the carrier on the table, and the baby kind of resembles like of an Indian heritage, like from India.
Okay. Interesting. And you said you were talking to the baby. Was the baby cooing and making noises back, or you spoke words to the baby to some effect?
It was just sort of like, there's a baby here, and then went over and was like, you're a baby. And then all of a sudden the door went. so no
there wasn't
real
any
reaction.
Specific content spoken to the baby. Just again, like a surprise, like, oh, you're a baby.
Yeah, it was something like that. Yeah.
Okay. And it was Was there any reaction from the baby at all? Smiling, blank, giggling?
Yeah, just sort of like, who are you? Like looking at me like I'm like, why are you? There's a random baby in my house.
So the baby also looked like, who are you?
Yeah, kind of like, what's going on?
And then also hesitant or sketchy on about like, you as well.
Yeah.
Interesting. And it was almost immediately after that you bang, bang, bang. It's loud bangs, like fist pounding on the door.
Yeah, it was like someone trying to open the door and get in.
And is this all one space? So, or was that front entry door in another part of the house? It's off the living room, dining room.
Yeah, I mean, there's like a foyer, and then it's all open space.
Okay.
So yeah, you can open the door and still be talking to people sitting at the dining room table.
Gotcha. Okay, good to know the kind of physical layout. Is this your house, so to speak?
Yeah.
This is so. This was not a house that you knew was yours, but a completely different layout. This was actually you dreaming that you're in your actual house.
Yes.
Okay. Fair enough. Because a lot of people go, I was at home, but it wasn't my home. So I like to tease that out a little bit. So it was a startling attempted entry. It wasn't pounding, let me in. It was someone expecting the door to be open and going for it forcefully and then yanking it around because it's not coming open.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like not realizing. Yeah.
And
not realizing it's locked.
Yeah. And then you, what was it? What was your response to that? Did you like, who's there? Or,
yeah, I was like, what's going on? Like, who are you? Like, it was I was just like,
you did pretty much.
I was scared and startled by it. I've had that dream before with someone trying to get in my apartment.
Yeah.
But this is the first time I spoke to the person on the other side.
Okay. And you remember kind of what you said, like who's there, or
I was like, what's going on? Who are you? That's what comes to mind. But I definitely asked, who are you?
Okay. And then did the yanking on the knob stop while the person responded? They stopped trying to enter and responded?
Yeah.
Okay.
And she said, I'm Fidelity. And I was told to come here and that the door would be open. And it sounded like a girl, like high school age.
Okay. And then almost immediately after hearing her response is when you woke up?
Yeah, I actually looked back at the guy that was there and then I woke up just to be like, what's going on? And then I woke up and I was like, I didn't open the door. And I'm like, was I supposed to? Because that, like, to me, that was a big breakthrough of talking to the person.
Yeah.
But then I woke up and I'm like, but I didn't open the door. And I'm like, well, I woke up, like I'm mad at myself, but I don't know, because I feel like I mentally couldn't open the door. I was so afraid. But then when I woke up and I started to think about it, I'm like, well, it wasn't scary. And, she said her name is Fidelity, and that means a lot of things.
Yeah.
So that's definitely an investment. And I even looked up the definition. It was,
I was going to ask you about that. That's a specific word, fidelity.
Yeah. Faithfulness to a person, cause, or belief demonstrated by continuing loyalty and support.
Yeah.
So I was like, is that a part of me?
I am your essence of faithfulness. Let me in. It's all, the door is supposed to be open. I'm here as requested. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Is that kind of what you got out of it when you looked up the definition? You're like, that's who she felt like, or?
Yeah, it felt like a younger girl, and I feel like I could see her. I didn't open the door, but I felt like in my dream I could see her on the other side, like with like her hair in a ponytail, glasses, dark hair. But she was just like innocent, like, dude, I'm here. Like, what's going on? But it makes sense because right now, I know that there's a big life change coming. I could feel it. I just have no idea what it is. I really have no idea. Trying to jog myself of like, is it this? Is it this? Is it this? But I'm trying to not let all the voices in my head make me crazy about it and just sort of let it happen. But it is a faithfulness of just trust that it's going to be good and that it'll happen and it'll be a good thing and not a bad thing. So that's how I took it. But it took me some, like, it wasn't the initial reaction. My initial reaction was, I'm scared and what happened. And then I'm like, wait, no, this wasn't bad. There was nothing bad.
That was the kind of the last thing I was going to ask you is when you woke up, what was your emotional state? And it was kind of a fearfulness in a way of and certainly not afraid of a physical harm. You said you felt like you couldn't open the door, like you were mentally afraid and therefore unable to open the door. And you woke up and that was the feeling that kind of lingered with you, that sense of fear, not that you were going to be hurt, but fear of something else.
So I'm just gonna. Sorry, okay. My alarms. I mute my phone, but the alarms still go off. In the dream, it was like so fast that I woke up that afterwards I then had the feeling of, was I mentally prepared or able to open the door?
Okay.
I also, just to put this in there, I have had horrific nightmares, like very traumatic nightmares. Lots of things happen to me in my sleep. And I kind of learned how to tune that off. So I think I have like PTSD of a nightmare again,
Gotcha.
I mean, we all get nightmares, right? That happens.
So you may have reflexively shocked yourself awake, like, this feels dangerous. I'm out. And so you woke yourself up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I think
fair enough. And that may be important too. Well, I think it's all important, but the idea that the entry of this person who identified themselves in that way was something you were afraid of, even if you put it in the body of something non-threatening, just an innocent high school kid who's there expecting the door to be open. There's a dichotomy going on of something that feels threatening, that you look at it and you go, but she's not. Why would that feel threatening? Something harmless, something in a harmless package. And it wasn't like you had the feeling that she was some dangerous monster hiding in the skin suit of a kid. It was actually a harmless kid that you should have felt comfortable welcoming in. Even if she got the wrong house, you let her in and talk to her. Nothing bad's going to happen, but something about what she represented and that word, she spoke that word to you. That word stood out, that idea of fidelity. Before I get into, I mean, I've already said enough and a lot, and we'll say more, but before I get into trying to put some pieces together myself, just going through it again and pulling out some additional elements, does a narrative or a purpose connections form for you? I don't like to put ideas in people's head until they've had a chance to speak for themselves.
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested in, I mean, I feel like I resonate with a lot of pieces, and talking to you now, a lot more pieces put together and a lot more like, oh, maybe it could be this, maybe it could be this. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, so far I feel good about it. And, I'd love to hear more, whatever more you want to get.
What I was specifically asking is if you've made any connections before I start suggesting more. Like, you're like, when we said that, this came to mind, and I think this part might relate to something specific. If you had those thoughts, you could share them. If you don't, we'll do it together.
I mean, I have a lot of spiritual feelings about it. So, I mean, I feel like there's a few people in that are not in my life, but that I'm following. Like they could have caught my attention through social media or through a TV show, and somehow learning their story is like resonate. It's like I'm on that same path as you are. You know, like I feel, oh my gosh, that happened to me at that time. That happened to me at that time. And I'm like, well, maybe those people were the men that were there, but I can't really identify them because I don't personally know them. And there's one of the saints, Saint Peter. He had his ear cut off, and he was at a crossroads in his life.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm living in faith, and I don't know how I'm going to make my job work, that I can pay my bills and, take care of my family. And, my business is in a crossroads of which direction we can go there, here or here. Which direction are we going to go in? And I'm kind of a little nerve-wracked, and it's like, okay, just stay in faith that whatever choice you make, you're going to make the right choice. And then, so when Peter meets Jesus, he tells him to go out and go fish again after he made all these promises to the tax collectors, like, oh, I'm going to go fishing. And he has all these higher ups taking, with him because they don't trust him. And he comes back empty handed, and he's like, I'm going to get killed. And they cut his ear, and he tries to get help. So at this point, he gathers up people to help him because he's like, basically they're going to kill me. Jesus is on the beach, and he goes, just go out one more time. And he goes out, and they have so much fish, like they have to get another boat, and they still can't get all the fish. It was just too much. And it just, so I feel like there's a biblical reference of that and a feeling of that. So I feel like it's a reminder to me of, that saint came to mind, that story came to mind. Watching The Chosen is a show about biblical stories. Having those visuals in my head, I think makes me connected. So I bit feel that might be perspective of it. And that I think there is PTSD from older dreams, and then just being able to speak to the person on the other side, and it's saying like, this is your trust and your intuition, and I'm with you, and my name is Fidelity, and Fidelity is, my dedication to you. So I feel like that could be a part of myself, just reminding me of, you're going to be okay. Like whatever you do, you're going to be okay. And that, so unless you have a different.
I think that's all great. And actually the first thing is, I was actually going to ask you if your religion or spirituality or faith was important to you, because there's this reference to obviously biblical times, people's clothing. At the very least, you got people, even if it was all set in modern day, you've got people at least clothed in this exterior representation of people of a specific place and time. So you're at a place, let's see, how do I start saying this? You're at a familiar place. You're at a place where you've got the city and the beach, and it's places you've been before. So it's familiar landscape in general. And you've got this flea market. And what is it? It's where you can find stuff. And you're going to a place where people are offering of themselves, their possessions. This is stuff I was saying earlier. And you're looking for maybe someone. You get the feeling it's a person and not a thing. And you're seeking directions, advice from this representation of people from the biblical times. I mean, there's a very strong connection there. That's why I was going to ask you about that. You volunteered it yourself. So there's something about your brain saying, well, what if I could lean on my faith and what I've learned from the stories of those people in the Bible to find what I'm looking for. And they are giving you directions. There's stories there that are speaking to you about possible solutions, There's something to that, and it sends you, and then you get a sudden urge that you need to be somewhere else. So you abandon that search in that area for unknown reasons. You still can't quite remember what suddenly drew your attention away.
Yeah, no.
Whatever it was is, that might be something important. You may never know, but there's the representation, at least, of being suddenly drawn away from looking in a particular place for the answer. And you're suddenly pulled away from that. And it's interesting that you're going from a very natural, beach, ocean, sun setting to city, civilization. And it's when you approach that the scene changes, and now you're in your home, and you're having the ear thing, another biblical representation of like, here's someone else who suffered in the course of trying to find their way, in a very specific way. I still think that may be a better understanding than cutting the ears, getting your attention. Hey, listen up. Maybe it is. Maybe it all fits together, but definitely that it's that specific story. I didn't know that story. So that's, it's good that I'm glad that you knew it and were able to communicate that to me so we could have that understanding together. And it was definitely because of the way you phrased that story. It's like, trusting back to receiving that biblical advice in a way. Jesus said, go out again, even after they cut his ear. And he's like, I'm in trouble. And he's like, just do it. Just, you can do this. You're going to find success if you just keep at it. So you may have put yourself embodied in that situation of like, I'm in a place just like this guy. Maybe if I do what he did, it'll work out in the same way. But you didn't feel a sense of threat from and it was more people in your home in the tunics. So they even came home with you in a way, or they're waiting for you at home. You're not separated from your faith, from your understanding of the world through that framework, just because you're not in the bazaar anymore, not in the flea market. It's actually in your home, and you carry it with you in that sense. It's interesting. Your next experience is to go out and you find the dining room table with the baby on it. Wasn't on the couch in the living room. Very much. I mean, the dining room table is a place where we eat meals, but also sometimes where it can serve as a quasi office. We open the mail there and do paperwork. What is your strongest association with the dining room table? Is it eating meals alone? Is it entertaining friends? Is it paying bills?
Now it's just strictly, gathering. I don't really use it other than gathering of people, like when family comes over, friends.
Okay.
And
so for you, your strongest association with that space is finding other people there, so to speak, or the interaction with other people. And instead of a dining room table full of friends and family that had come over to eat with you, it's a baby in a carrier, and you're both a little confused. And it's kind of like, well, what are you doing here? What are you doing here? That's a tricky one. I don't know if anything comes to your mind in that sense of like, why a baby? What's the icon of a baby mean to you? And I mean, there's a lot of different ways we can go with it in terms of babies are the beginning of new things, possibly.
Yes.
Was that what you were thinking?
That was exactly what I was going to say, because I feel like there's a huge life change coming. Like I could feel it and I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's a new beginning. And so since it was very distinctly, the child looked exactly like an Indian, like ethnicity, like it was very distinct, the hair, the coloring. And I think what the baby was wearing, like, some of those authentic clothing, I think it's trying to say, like, it's going to be something that will be foreign to me because,
sure, like,
obviously that's not my ethnicity, but
yeah.
Something that's different but calming, because I find like all the Indian people that I know are very calming, are very just like gentle, warm, calming people.
Yeah.
So
that's a strong association. Yeah.
Yeah. Like the baby was calm and just like not no real emotion, but just like calm. And so I could feel that.
Yeah, I didn't grab that in my own mind. The idea that it's, yeah, because of the difference in ethnicity. Well, it's not my baby. Where does this baby come from? It literally a foreign baby in the sense of foreign to your genetics. But that connection of something different, so something different than
Yeah.
different than you currently. Very interesting there, and that experience of identifying that icon in that space then led to the experience of the person who identifies themselves as Fidelity attempting to enter, but finding the door isn't open as
Yeah.
they expected. Feel like that's, I'll wrap my head around that a little bit too. I know we talked about, the definition of it and the idea of trusting yourself, but you didn't. You woke yourself up because this
Yeah.
sudden.
So that,
Go ahead.
yeah. Yeah. So that's like kind of where I'll fight with myself now of being mad that I didn't open it. But it's like, but look at all the goodness of what we unveiled in this dream. And, you have reasons why you were woken up. You didn't have time to really think about it in the dream. And you do have past fears of it, but you spoke to the person, which is a big deal for me within my dreams of speaking to, like being so afraid every time that happened and not really realizing that I got past a big barrier.
Yeah. Waking yourself up in terror that you were in immediate danger and not even having the ability to speak, but having that be different this time, that you were able to, that might relate to the baby icon too. And that idea of like, you didn't find your apartment or house empty, and now you're confronting this alone. There's actually other people there, these representations of your faith surrounding you, so to speak, and drawing your attention to things. And the presence of the baby, the beginning of something new, your ability to ask a question you've never asked, but that's new. Your ability to ask a question you've never asked before, confront what's on the other side of the door, and finding out that it wasn't something dangerous. It was something that could be beneficial that maybe you just weren't ready to let in yet. There's something to that. I don't know if that makes sense to you.
And it's, I feel like, it's like those dreams where you want to scream and you can't, or like you can't run anywhere, and it's like getting through that barrier of it. But then it's like, I didn't take it far enough.
Yeah. And that might that might be good as well. It's like, sometimes we need to just stop the dream where it shows us where we are stuck, that actually going further in the dream wouldn't be beneficial because you aren't there yet in your waking mind. So it's actually showing you where the barrier is by where you woke yourself up. So yeah, with this whole change that you're anticipating, it feels like it's building. It's definitely showing up in your dreams, and you're searching for answers in trusted sources. And it's taking you, in your mindset, not only can I go out there and find things, but people's homes are very often related to themselves in a way. The idea of, being at home is your home environment, is where you are you. Letting things into your home is often metaphorical of letting things into ourselves. We very often identify our bodies with our physical structures we live in that sense. I was going somewhere with that. You looked outside, but then you went inside to actually identify the place you need to look for the answer. Is kind of where I'm going with that. Is that kind of making sense? From searching the bizarre outside.
You mean, so when I was searching at the beginning of the dream?
Yeah. And then the process of, well, I'm not finding what I'm looking for here. I'm going to go home, which is very often I'm going to go inside myself to look for the answers. that's kind of where I'm going with that is,
Yeah.
you've been looking on the outside, and that's great. There's a lot of great answers on the outside, a lot of great people pointing you in directions, but then you went inside to where you could identify, well, there's something new and there's a challenge I'm going to face, and you have a choice to let it in. You don't have to. Maybe you don't want to. Maybe you feel like you should, but you're second guessing it. But definitely, I think it's enough to just clarify the problem without expecting the dream to give you an answer of what you should necessarily. Should you open the door? Maybe.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, yeah, I feel like I've been so stuck that I don't know how to open the door.
Yeah. And that's a good realization too, of just kind of from discussing the general dream experiences, like, it almost allows you to say, okay, well, now I know the question. Now I can start looking for the answer. Like, until we can kind of crystallize what it is we're even trying to understand. It's hard to know if we've got the right answer, to know if we know what we want in order to decide, okay, well, now how do I do that? So I think part of you definitely wants to be open to new experiences, wants to leave that door unlocked for your faith, fidelity, your trust that everything's going to work out to come through. But part of your mind's like, I don't know if I'm ready. Maybe. Yeah.
But I feel ready.
You do?
Yeah. And that's why I think I'm more frustrated of like, let's just open the door, because it's like, I'm ready. I'm just so like, let's do this. Let's go. Like, what's next? I'm excited. Let's get to that next place. Let's find it. Yeah.
Fair enough. Maybe that door being locked is a expression of frustration that, Fidelity expected it to be open when she got there. And you don't have any indication that you locked it yourself. It was just locked. So so maybe you're having that experience of, a flow being blocked kind of against your will.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I totally exactly feel that.
Better.
Yeah. I feel like there's something in front of me and I'm like, what is it in front of me? Because like, I got to keep going, like I'm sick of this wall. And I feel like I crushed a lot of walls and, made a lot of progress, but there's a wall and I'm like, what is the wall? Because I'm working on, big projects and exciting things. And, the walls that I can identify, I'm like, okay, this is what I'm doing to take care of this. This is what I'm doing to take care of this. Is it still one of those walls or is there something I'm not, or is it just to have faith in the whole process? Is it something I don't identify or is it just, I'm trying to control too much of everything and not just letting it happen?
Yeah. A secured barrier. Sometimes it can be healthy boundaries. It could be like, I'm not ready for that, but you'd say you are. So that would lead more towards the understanding of it as, an unfortunate blockage, something that you didn't lock that door yourself. It just is locked. And now you got to understand, okay, what is the lock? What is the door? What am I trying to let in? What's the best way to get it unlocked? Because there may be better and worse ways to do that too. Sometimes we hesitate because we're not sure about committing to a specific path to something we know we want, but we want to do it the right way. Sometimes that can be a locked door in front of us that it'll come open on its own when we've made a decision about how we want to approach a problem. Something like that.
No, that's great. Very good.
Well, were there other specific images or elements of the dream that you wanted to touch on to try and get a better grip on, or you think we've told a pretty good story about what it looks like? I'm easy.
Yeah, no, I think like that was really good. Like I think there is a barrier, and if I'm reading, I'm going to walk away with it saying, maybe the barrier is everything you need is right around you, and you're physically seeing them. These people representing, what's ahead, even though that it is unknown, but it's the barrier is just staying in the trust. That's what I'm going to walk away with. Like you are the people you're thinking of following. Yeah. And just look at how they trusted, and that barrier is like, I'm really literally at your door. Like,
yeah,
if you trust, the door will be unlocked.
That's another great understanding of the imagery itself. It's like, I'd already be in if you just open the door.
Yeah.
So that's great. That's good. Well, I always find these fascinating. I mean, I had no idea what to make of it when we first started. I'm like, there's a flea market on a beach. Okay, what's next? And then we got to some pretty deep stuff. I know you've also got a time limit too. I want to make sure you're out on time for your appointment. Well, let's do this. We'll just say thank you once again to our friend Debbie Cruz for being here, and that's Cruz. It's DEBBYKRUSZ, DebbieCruz.com. Also, at Debbie Cruz on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. You've got a novel. You are a dream pollinator, and hopefully I've helped to maybe pollinate a bit of your next dream. Maybe you will find a door in your next dream and choose to open it and see what's on the other side. And that'll be a whole new experience for you.
Yeah. Well, and when it happens, I'm going to definitely reach out to you and let you know.
I do want to hear. I like follow-up. I had, just quick story, about 2 seconds. I had a guy we talked about, I think it was episode 12. He was having this block in his dream where these shadowy dark figures would physically beat him up to keep him from going into this other area in his dream. We talked about this, that, and the other. And he contacted me later saying, they're still not letting me move ahead, but now we're interacting. They don't attack me anymore because now I'm not seeing them as enemies, but they're there for a different purpose. That was mind blowing. That this guy's recurring dream of getting beaten up by shadow monsters changed because he talked to me. There's nothing better in my world.
I love it. No, but it's true. You don't realize you are in control of. You feel like you're watching your own movie, but you really are in control and have these conversations and put yourself in places to empower yourself. So
for sure,
I think what you do is fabulous, and I appreciate it so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, just my last thing. Hey, stop what you're doing. Like, share, subscribe, tell your friends. 13 books of historical dream literature, direct donations, t-shirt, coffee mug, all that good stuff. And above all, thanks for listening.
Thank you.